Good morning everyone, EagleX from ATX EagleX Gaming here today, and I have another Market Watch video. But before we get started with the video today, if you guys haven't already, if you could subscribe to the channel, like, comment, it really shows support and helps push me to make this type of content. Let me know I'm going in the right direction when I see all the likes and increase in subscriptions. But with that being said, let's get started with today's Market Watch. So starting over here with our sealed product, as always, I want to make a really interesting point here. So for the longest time, 1.0 is considered the main collection, like grail for this game, being the most valuable. People thought it would be the best long run in the game. If you take a look, market price is around 140 here, but realistically, these boxes are available around the $100, $115 price range. The reason prices are going down is because people are scared about its value getting lost with the reprint set coming out. And I kind of mentioned it last week. If you really care about the contents of this box, you probably care more so about the alt arts, because that's the only way you get those. But we were saying it's roughly 115, but if we compare it to BT9, the set that has a lot more staples, a lot more longevity at the moment, and honestly, a lot of the problem decks in the game, you can see it's starting to be right up there with $115. And you have a lot more of like consistent values and pulls. You pull a cool boy, you get $5 basically for that rarity pull. Next antibody, you get roughly $2 to $3 for that uncommon. Your alt arts are very high dollar. You got your Agu X's, you got your Death X's. Even like your other rare tamers, like the Taikari here, Metal Gray X, Rise Gray X. You're very consistently pulling value based off of your SRs and your rares and your even really good uncommons in this set. So overall, that's why this is a pretty pricey box. And overall, if you get these for cheap or for a very good price, it's almost always worth opening at this point. I don't think there's many cards that even got reprinted with like the revision packs in this set. This is done pretty well for the most part. But that is my rant about BT9 versus 1.0 right now. This is like the holy grail boxes because of how competitively viable the set is overall. But moving over to our bulk corner here, I want to give some shoutouts to two decks in particular. The first one is Commandramon. If you guys haven't seen, Commandramon, or the DigiPolice D-Brigade Police, has been getting support lately, and that's caused some prices to go up, like for the alt art rare Commandramon, which is a staple in the deck. And I believe one of the level 4s counts as Commandramon also, so you would be able to play him out. As you can see, that spike has gone up. So if you don't have these, it's not the worst time to pick him up. You can honestly probably give it a little bit longer, because once the hype dies down, the prices typically correlate with it. But if you haven't picked up your other Commandramon guys, it's not the worst time to. The starter deck one is the next most expensive one because the black starter's old, this guy hasn't been reprinted, and I don't think he's slotted for a reprint anytime soon. So just depending on what Commandramons you want to use in your build will help influence that. Then Event Pack 1 was bought out for a little bit. He's showing up more and he's cooling down in price. But just make sure you have your Commandramons for the long run of this game, because this is a deck that continuously gets a little bit of support and typically shows up at the end of every format once people get tired of the current decks. The Dinosaurs with Guns are always the go-to deck I see people playing and enjoying again. And just kind of go with the Commandramons. If you guys haven't looked at their top end, Dark Dramon, pull it up real quick. There's a few of them. There's not as many. But if you have the Digifest ones, those are worth a good amount. Even the OG one's like $1 without the stamp. Just because it's BT4, it's pretty old now. But moving along to our other deck core that I want to talk about is Diaboromon. I have been going through my TCG player store, guys, and I have been moving Diaboromon card after Diaboromon card. These Digifest ones have been moving, and you'll see they're starting to go up because we saw Diaboromon Ace revealed, and we know BT13 is going to be oriented around the Dark Masters, or the villains per se of Digimon. So I imagine there's probably going to be some niche support for him there. I'm not quite sure about that as much because I don't know a lot of the lore, but we do know the Ace was revealed. So a lot of these cards are going up in value. The official tokens are almost bought out entirely. They've been bought up a lot, but that's been trending for a while now though too. Just because this was at Digifest, they're kind of high demand because the Diabora players typically want like 8 to 10-ish of them. So if every player wants 8 to 10 of these, it's kind of like the Aosmon or the ADR Searcher problem for like alt arts, especially, like you'll see at the end of the video here, where they just kind of get eaten up and their price will go up because you have such a low supply versus the demand. But based on what Diabormons you think are most viable, it's definitely worth looking at, considering scooping some up. The one I really want to point out here, thanks to Demolish for showing this to me earlier, this is the championship ones that came in the national packs for, I believe, participating in nationals for this previous year. There's a good amount of them here, and it's the exact same art as this one here from Event Pack 3. It just has the national stamp on it. I think I actually have my seal pack here. Yeah, I have my sealed pack here, but it's going to be kind of similar to this, like your 2022 stamp one. They just don't have the image on TCG Player for it. But Diabora stuff is definitely worth looking at, scooping up. If you don't have if you have your Diaboros, you want to make sure you have your Inframons is the other thing. Because a lot of the Inframons are pretty solid. The promo one is just an old promo that's never been reprinted. It's not great here, but I definitely think you have more value in your EX1, your 1.0, or even your BT5 ones. And I don't expect these to be super pricey, because it's an uncommon that's relatively new for not the best deck in the world, but just fun things to talk about. If you like Diabormon, it's always worth to get some of the key cards earlier, sooner than later. But talking about more meta stuff that has results, I want to talk about Shine Gray. You get a little bit more support, you get a new line in EX4, but BT13 is where it actually becomes established as a deck. So just taking a quick glance through cards here, you can see there's a few ways you can build this deck. You can go with the yellow base Marcus route using yellow mem boost, and I believe this is like their new training boost where you look at the top 2 cards, or top card if it's the color, you add to hand. I think it's something like that. It's a similar mem boost though, just don't dig as deep. But you have searching rookies almost every time. Agu X is one thing I see in and out of builds, and that's really based on the color. If you have a red base with the Draw Koro, you probably have Agu X's, which means you have red memory boost. So that's one thing to keep in mind. You have the yellow base with the yellow mem boost. Let's see, Agu X's, Koros, red mem boost. So it makes sense to see them together with the burst mode. We even have the new Kudamon in this build. Not quite sure what the intention is there, but it's a yellow base build. And we do have the Ruin mode here. I believe that's Ruin at least. Pardon my Japanese, I do not know any of it. But back to red base, Sunrise Buster, red mem boost. But the reason I want to bring this up is you can see consistently what the builds are. You have your 8 Marcus Daemons, you have your Agu X's or your Agumons with your color mem boost. So if you like going for max rarity, definitely consider doing it now. There's our first one, BT2 Shine, because he suspends the Marcus, DP drains, lets you evo into your next one, which is ideally Ruin mode or Burst mode, for free, thanks to Marcus Daemon. But yeah, just different ways you can build it, and I wanted to pull up some prices here, point out. Alt-Art Marcus Daemon, it's like $90 give take in Japan right now, plus minus conversions. If you guys haven't seen, Marcus Daemon has been skyrocketing his alt-art. Is almost bought out entirely. He's $75 right now. There's only 2 listings left. The last playset was sold at $75 each. I wouldn't be surprised if this guy goes up a little bit more, but I think he is close to his peak in price. So definitely something to keep an eye out for. And even his regular art should be fine in price. I don't think the supply's that dry up yet. Someone mentioned in my last video, I'm surprised you didn't talk about the old Marcus Daemon. Well, that's partially because he's so new, and he wasn't really short printed in the rare of the last set. If he was a bit older, I would consider like investing a lot heavier into him right now. But he's pretty readily available, so if we look at like listings for more, you can see there's a lot of stores that have copies. You got 20 here, 25 cents each, 10 at 80 cents each. Like, you're not going to be going beyond $2 anytime soon. Like, we're in pages of people that have 4+ copies. Doesn't count people with single copies. But he's pretty readily available. And that's my say about Marcus. But Shine Gray is the next thing. I kind of touched it last Market Watch. Alt-Art Shine Gray, if we look at it up here, he's hovering around $80 in Japan right now. 8,000 yen, this is roughly $80. There's probably a bit more room for growth on this card if you care about investing, but it's not a bad time to get this card now because he is a core 4 of card. If you recall from our list over here, he is always a 4 of, or 3 to 4 of, I should say. We got our 3 of here. We got our, where's our level 6s here? Got our 3 of here, 4 of here. We're using BT2 Shine in this build. 4 of here. 4 of here. Like, he is going to be in high quantity demand, which is why the alt art's going to be worth money. And honestly, the regular art is going to be worth good money still too, just because you need so many copies for it to be consistent. Like, you have your $9, $10 right now. Even in Japan, if you look at the base rarity one, he's $18. So just keep that in mind. If you don't have them, consider picking them up. And the Audio X's, if you haven't seen, these guys have skyrocketed also. I have sold out my copies personally. But he is at $70. I know it's no news that this is an expensive alt art. It's a good card for all the Greymon decks. He's very generic, which makes him super accessible and very desirable in those decks. But yeah, just keep in mind, this card's going to be pricey. He's in some builds, so if you want to have max rarity, you have to consider what your price point is for buying this card. But that is all about Shine Gray for now. Moving on to our next deck. EX4 Kazuha, I believe is how you say it. Pardon me, I am horrible with the names. But just some things to look at. Because it's a yellow-blue card, it has lots more synergies with yellow and blue Digimon. One in particular is the Shacklemon from BT8, I believe is the DNA Jogress one. You're able to spit out a lot of low-level things from your sources, so you'll be able to do some more Jogress plays potentially with it. But one thing that's very consistent is you will see maid modes in every build. And oh my goodness, if you haven't seen, maid modes have been exploding in price too, because this is like your optimal level 6 to pair with it. But it has consistently been selling now for that $50 price point. And if you guys remember from my old market watches, this is a card I told you was going to be worth something in the long run just because it's generic and it's a fan favorite line. And it's definitely showing out as it's almost bought out from TCG Player as well. So keep your eye out on this card. And then I talked about the Shako briefly. If you guys don't have your Shakos, you got some really cool regional stamped ones for pretty darn cheap. Like $1 for base rarity participant, $1 to $2 I should say. Roughly $7 for a finalist stamp and champion stamp. Good luck finding those, they're kind of hard. But just something cool that you can look at if you want to play this deck. It's something I would consider picking up. And now moving over. In Japan right now, in their format, you can see the most popular deck is War Greymon, followed by Mirage, Shine, Bielza, and then Yggdrasil Royal Knights. I want to emphasize the War Greymon decks. This is before BT13, 15. I can't remember when that new War Grey was revealed. But using the new starter deck, you have your War Grey Ace, which gives you some more lines of play, but the most common partner for him is the Raid War Grey. Raid War Grey, if you haven't seen, roughly $18 in Japan. Pretty high price if you ask me. If you look at him over in the US, he's roughly $3. There's a pretty big gap there, and I want to emphasize that. I think this is a great long-term investment based on what the meta is shaping up to be in Japan. And we can even look at more of the winning recipes. You'll see there's always a variety of Black Wars people play and War Greys people play, but the Raid War Grey is going to be the favorite one here for a lot of builds. I need to pull up not the tweet build, but the images. Oh, I'm not in deck recipes. Different part. But anyways, you can browse and see what you feel like the meta is going to be in the future for this set. But I think it's definitely a good price point to pick up. And if you want to look at the alt art's sitting at roughly 60. So you can have lots of room to roughly double your growth, potentially if our market lines up with Japan 100%. Talked about that, and now kind of touch up and wrap up our video here. If you guys haven't seen Box Topper Rookies, these are a really cool promo that we were waiting so long to get, and the ones I really want to point out is Harrismon. I think it's a pretty cheap card right now for how good it is. This is how I look at cards for longevity in the game, but its generic effect, its synergy with yellow, the rookie going to your hand is all great value. I think this card's probably a bit underpriced. Similar with the Belucamon, because the Belucamon to draw to at the end of battle and then add to hand, It's basically a +3 from security, as you get 3 new cards added to your hand. Lots of value in blue decks. So just some things to look at and consider there in the long run. As the other promo rookies have gone up quite a bit in price, the Dorumon and Impmon in particular. Impmon because of restriction, Dorumon because he is just generically good in black decks. And then the last card I want to talk about here, guys, or series of cards, starts with one card though. If you guys haven't seen this Morphemon promo, it is direct support for Eosmon. So it refers to Eosmon and Manoa Bellucci. You get a free Manoa, I believe, yeah. Then by placing one card under an Eosmon, you may play one Manoa from your hand without paying the cost. It's a free Manoa, just with the on-play of Morphemon. And then you have a good inheritable synergized Eosmon. So if you guys haven't seen Eosmon, it's a card that if you feel like it's going to get a lot more support aside from just this promo, it's not a bad scoop. But more interestingly for me, I want to talk about these campaign alt-arts and rares, where I see them in the long run. I definitely think the playable ones are great long-term holds. Doraemon, I think, is a great hold. It's good right now because Ulti Cup, so it's going to be a little higher priced for the short run, but long-term, I think it's got room to grow still, especially if you get more Alphamon support. Commandramon, I think he's in a hype price right now, so he's a little overpriced, but long-term, he's also a great one. Eosmon, depending on how much you see support for this one, depends on how well you perceive the price. Gazimon, because he is a staple in purple, I see it being a great long-term hold. I don't mind scooping these up in trades ever. I will hold on to as many of them as I get my hands on in trade. And then Zephyrmon and HPD, depending on the restrictions these have in their decks, kind of hold back their prices for what they could be. So if you ever see Jet Selfie coming off the restriction list or being put to like a semi-limit, this card would probably follow in price. It's really good in Ulti Cup right now, though, too, as like a rogue deck playing Yellow Hybrid. But that's what I have for today's Market Watch. If you guys enjoy the content, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. With that being said, take care, y'all, and have a nice one.